Hey, fight fans, welcome back to Stand and Bang. We're joined in the second segment by UFC lightweight Jorge Masvidal. Jorge, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Okay, you guys, man.
All right, so you just informed us that you had an interesting but unfortunate event happen last night. Tell the fans, even though you are a star of the UFC game, you're not immune to some common stuff that happens to everybody. What happened to you last night?
Man, I got home last night from the gym, and I got a little lazy. I live in Miami, Florida, and you can't be lazy out here. I left a couple items in the car. Nice pair of sunglasses. It was a gift to me right before my fight. And my gym stuff, all my gym equipment in the trunk. And I usually take it down and air it out, but last night I was a little tired, so I just left it in the car. And wake up today in the morning, I've been taking my kid to school. I know there's a couple of things that missing from the Senate Council, but I didn't think none of it. I thought maybe I left it at home. When I get to the track and field, I see that the Reebok UFC shoes that we just got, I had them in the trunk, they're missing, along with my wrestling shoes and my gym bag. That's when I knew something was up, and too late, I got already,
So, you were robbed?
Yeah, I got robbed, man. But basically what happened was, I talked to my friend who's an officer, and he tells me it's been happening a lot with the cars that are like the keyless cars, the ones that you can just push start. They have a signal that's like always beeping, right? So they make these little like boxes or whatnot that could reroute like the signal. Or you could be 500 feet away, can make it seem like you're right there next to these are right next to the car, and it won't turn on the car, but it'll open up the car, So that's all it is.
Okay, that's pretty unbelievable. Now, for the fans that don't understand how important that is, you said that you lost 2 mouth guards. Tell them how much those things cost. How much it cost to have those made.
One of them was like $750. The other one was like around insane, like a little bit cheaper. I got it. Big shout out to Jobs because they had hooked me up. And one of them they gave me a huge discount. They took care of me. They're the ones with one of the dentists got to get the impression of and all that stuff.
That's unbelievable. Okay, so I'm not sure if this person will be listening, but if the asshole that stole Jorge Masvidal's gym gear is listening, give it back. Don't be a jerk like that. And on that note, Kirby, can you believe this? Didn't Diego Sanchez get robbed? Didn't his car get stolen recently as well?
Yeah, I think I did hear something like that. And I got to tell you, you got to give it to these thieves. They got some balls on them, right? I mean, either they had no idea whose car they were breaking into, or they were some ballsy-ass thieves to break into Jorge Masvidal's car and try to steal all his shit like that. You got to say.
Yeah, I mean, that's... Go ahead.
Randomly, yeah, I don't think they had no idea. They just picked the strip, and they just hit up like a couple houses in that neighborhood, I'm sure.
Okay.
Yeah, you said you stay in Miami too, right? So it's just kind of like you said, you got caught slipping. You got to be on your shit down in Miami, or you'll get caught, right?
Yeah, and I'm in a pretty decent neighborhood. I'm in a good neighborhood actually. It's just I mean the bad thing still happening in a good neighborhood because that's where you go to rob people,
Yeah, true. Makes sense. That's where the money's at.
All right. Well, that is a strange piece of business. Now, on that note, we'll go ahead and start the actual show. I just had to have the fans hear that one. Okay, I'm still disturbed about your last fight. I talked about this quite a bit, but now some new news, or I guess some old new news, was brought up by Bloody Elbow. But right now, in my opinion, you should be 6-1 in the UFC, but unfortunately you're 5-2 because of the fight in Virginia with Ally Iaquinta. In my opinion, Jorge, you tuned him up in the first round. You dealt with his ineffective aggression for rounds 2 and 3, and then somehow or another, you came out on the wrong end of that decision. The crowd knew it. 13 out of 15 media outlets knew it. Can you give us your initial thoughts when you heard the announcement? Can you tell us what was going through your mind when that happened?
What's crazy? I haven't like said it in no interviews or nothing because it took me a while to hit me. It took me like when I was backstage, it took me like 30 minutes. The crazy part is that I had a dream like 3 days before this exactly happened, and it was the same when I was in the cage, and they said the decision, and in my dream, the only thing different when they say 29, 28, I leave running. I just sprint all the way to the locker room. I didn't wait for the decision because I knew I got robbed in my dream. And when it happened, and I realized that I had that dream 3 days before, I didn't even bring up a dream to nobody. I didn't want to put that vibe out there, you know. So as soon as it happened, I just stayed quiet of it, and I tried to forget about it. And like when I was backstage in the locker room, like 20, 30 minutes later, it hit me, and it was fucking crazy. It was like one of the craziest things ever, you know.
Well, I think that decision was one of the craziest things. Now, Fred and
that decision left me speechless, man, to say the least. But the reason why I brought up the dream, because the dream was the only thing that was crazy to me, is that I had a dream about it. But yeah, it was nuts, man. I mean, you know, after the fight, I was obviously, when you fight somebody, you're always pulling for yourself, you know. So I was like, you know what? Let me just watch the tape. Let me look at the stats. Maybe I was in the zone and I was thinking that I did a lot better than what I actually did, you know. So when I got home to Miami, Florida, I saw the tape. I just I turned the volume off and just watched the tape a couple times, and then I looked at the stats. But before I even had to watch the tape, I saw the stats. I mean, in every round I threw more punches, and I landed at a higher percentage, and I actually did damage. I stuffed I think 9 or 10 takedowns that he shot. So I don't know, I get confused, you know. Like, what does it take to win? You know, you just gotta be ineffective and just make a lot of noises, you know.
Yeah,
a lot of grunting, I guess.
You were in the cage, so obviously what we saw is different than what you saw, but I will tell you what I saw. I saw in the first round a man get handled in Iaquinta, and then you in round 2 and 3 dealing with what I said, ineffective aggression. Just like you said, he was grunting and swinging, but he wasn't hitting anything. He obviously wasn't hitting you. You looked fresh as a daisy after the fight, and when they announced that was kind of like a WTF moment for me. Fred, you agree with me on this one, right?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like 13 out of 15 media outlets like gave the fight to Jorge. The whole
and Al too. Right after the fight, I walked over and I shook his hand, and I don't know if that comes out on camera, but I shook his hand and I told him, "Hey man, you tougher than I expected." And I gave him a hug, and he was like, he wasn't in like defiance of that he lost, and he was like accepting the loss. He's like, "Man, you know, never seen nothing like you in my life," and this and that. And now, you know, I don't even know why he won't just say the truth, you know?
Yeah, okay, so like
I think he can learn he'll learn more from this if he was to be like, I lost, so let me fix those mistakes, instead of being like, I won. But then I started thinking maybe he has a concussion, you know? So I just give him some time and a concussion over there.
All right, so for clarification, before the announcement of the scores, when you guys were kind of settling up after the final horn, that's what he said to you, is that he never had nothing like you, and you say that he more or less had accepted that defeat.
Yeah, I mean, the way he was acting towards me when I was talking, you know, even his body posture before the first announcement gets read, it's just like he don't have his hands up, he's just there. You know, and even after they read the first one, his eyes open big, and he's kind of like, whoa, I might have a chance of winning this, you know?
All right, Fred, what did you see in that one? Let's get your opinion on this, because I know that I was actually angered by the decision.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was clearly a bullshit decision. I mean, obviously, like I said, the whole crowd there in attendance booed afterwards. Actually, I'm kind of curious, Jorge, was you paying attention to how Al reacted to the crowd afterwards? Did you like catch that when he tripped out of the crowd? What was you thinking about that?
Yeah. It was pretty cool, man, to see him going like that. I saw a couple of people throwing beers from the higher places. They were just upset they were throwing beers. And then right towards the end, there was like a group of people that were getting real fun. They were getting crazy. I thought a fight was going to break up for a second towards the back when I was leaving the arena. So it was pretty cool to see that the fans were behind me, because I think initially coming in they weren't too behind me, but after the fight they definitely were. They were on my side, you know.
Yeah, we say this all the time on the show, man. The proof is in the pudding. Like you said, man, all the stats leaned your way. All the media outlets saw it your way, and the whole, you know, audience in attendance saw it your way. So come on, man. Clearly you won that fight. Did you get a call from like Dana White or Joe Silva? Did anybody call you like, yo, don't freak out, we know you won, like don't trip? Like it seems like somebody would have called you and put your mind at ease with such a shitty decision.
I ain't getting no such phone call.
For real?
No, I ain't getting no such phone call.
You know, that's
crazy.
Yeah, that's disappointing. We always speculate, and we know in some cases, because fighters have told us this, when they lose a ridiculous decision, Silva or White or somebody in the upper brass will call and be like, look, we're going to take care of you. And in this case, all right, now this is something that I need to bring up. I've been watching your career since before Strikeforce, and you can be as diplomatic or as honest as you want, because I assure you Dana White's not listening to this show, but man, it doesn't seem like you can catch a break in the UFC. Are you kind of getting that vibe?
Yeah, kind of. You know, I was, after the Gill fight, I actually wanted to bump up to like 170 already. Right after the Johnson Wilcox fight, especially the weight cut had already gotten tough for me. I decided to stick around because I figured that at 55, when we do the transfer over to the UFC, I would get the bigger names at 55. You know, the type of names that I was getting, like a strike force. I was fighting the higher end of the guys, and I thought the same thing would be in the UFC. You know, at least give me one guy to prove my worth, see if I belong or not. But 7 fights later, it still hasn't happened. You know, so I'm frustrated. You know, but I'll say not too. I don't think I've said it in any public shows. It'll be the first one. My next fight, I'll be taking out 170. I don't know if it's who exactly yet or nothing, but it will be at 170.
Your next fight will be at 170?
Yeah, for sure. Unless they would have given me this Donald Cerrone fight, you know, at a catch weight, because I was training for a 170-pound fight, so I was a little heavier, and I had to go down to 56. But yeah, my next fight would definitely be at a 170-pound fight.
Okay, well, we will get to that here in just a minute, but before we move on, I want to bring up Doug Crosby. Doug Crosby is the judge that gave it to you 30-27 in that fight, and Kirby, you're familiar with Doug Crosby. Now, what disturbs me is that is the only judge that got it right, but today, Mookie Alexander over at Bloody Elbow, I believe, wrote up an article kind of disparaging Doug Crosby, saying the reason why he gave Jorge the 30-27 is because of a beef with Ray Longo. Did you get to read that article, Kirby?
No, I did not actually, but you had told me about it and the finer points of it, and I don't really understand its relevance, quite frankly.
Well,
honestly.
I think what they're trying to do is to back Iaquinta and say, well, see, the only reason that not all 3 judges scored the fight the same is because of a beef with Ray Longo. And this is where I have a problem, especially where Jorge is concerned. Don't try to spin this to make it look better for Iaquinta and even worse for Jorge. Jorge, were you aware of the Doug Crosby debacle going on there?
Yeah. A couple of my managers have told me about it, about the article and stuff, and I didn't really have anything to say about it. I just think it's fucked up. I saw online, my manager sent it to me. A couple of outlets online gave me 30-26. So it was like 3 or 4 outlets that gave me 30-26. A couple gave me 30-27. I was just like, man, I don't know how they could be, how somebody could see the same fight and be so against it, you know? And I mean, when you think about it, the first round, if I think I knocked him down twice. I hit him with a left hook that he like drops his knees and takes a bad shot, and then after that I hit him with a right hand, which he does the same thing. Basically, he's about to fall and he just takes the shot, you know. So if you count any one of them a knockdown, they're both a knockdown. And so I win that round because of that, and it's a 10-9. We go to the third round. If you give it to him or whatnot, he lands a couple leg kicks and 1 or 2 right hands that never hurts me, never wobbles me or nothing, and they give him the same 10-9, you know. So it's just there's definitely something fucked up there, you know, some mafia type shit, you know. And I still haven't. I already put the paperwork to appeal. They haven't reviewed it yet. I don't know why. I just want my day in court just to hear, like, at least. I think it would be cool. I don't care about getting the decision overturned because that's never happened in the history. If it happens, man, praise the God, because that's never happened. But at least if I could create just more awareness, so the judges at least maybe could talk to the whole group, fighters in general, and be like, look, I'm judging these fights, and I'm the type of judge that I like to see guys swinging at the air and missing and taking shots and getting stuffed and getting dropped eventually. But as long as you're making a lot of noise, you know, I'm the type of judge that'll give you the fight. They don't want to hear the other judge say, look, I'm actually looking for somebody that's landing strikes, what he's throwing, finishing his technique, you know. I think it'd be cool if the judges would tell us before the fights, like the day of the weigh-ins or something, what they're looking for, you know?
You know, that might not be a bad idea. At least that way you could customize your fight so you have a better chances with these judges. We make a lot of jokes. Fred and I make a lot of jokes over social media when we see a bad decision, you know, Ray Charles in one corner and Stevie Wonder in the other corner. And sometimes, man, I don't think we're that far off. And so, hey, maybe knowing what they want would be great. Now, I don't want to keep digging at a wound. Obviously, you agree with us. The video that you made after that, you made yourself very clear. You weren't happy with the decision. I definitely want to stay in touch with you to see how that court goes. Like you said, they probably won't overturn, but maybe it'll make some awareness. So now, why don't we move on to the next thing that surprises me is 187. We have arguably the best card of 2015, maybe the best card in recent memory. We did have John Jones defending his title against Anthony Johnson, and then there's the Vitor versus Weidman fight, and then it brings us to Nurmagomedov versus Donald Cerrone. Khabib hurts his knee, has to pull out of the fight, and immediately you got onto social media and said, "Hey, Cowboy, what's up? Let's do it." Now, generally, when a fighter does this, they get a little hate, they get a little love, but you didn't do too bad. You got several hundred retweets and favorites, and then steps in John Makdessi. Can you wrap your mind around the decision of giving John Makdessi the fight for us, Jorge?
The only thing that comes to mind is that I guess maybe he's like he was closer to the weight, maybe he's a smaller 55 that he can make the weight right away. You know, I was already, like I said, I told him I'd have to do it at a cash rate of 160 because I'm about 191 right now. I could have got the 60, you know, but 56 right now, the way I've been training for the 170 about preparing weightlifting and stuff, there's no way I could have made 56 right now.
Okay.
But I'm sure that maybe had a part to do with it, you know.
So, did somebody contact you about the fight and you told them you would not be able to make 155?
Oh no! As soon as I found out within minutes, my management was already reaching out to Joe Silva to tell him that, hey, we could take a catch weight, we could do 160, you know, maybe 159. Just if they could just work with me on the weight because it was a little bit short notice. It was going to be about 2 weeks and a half, 3 weeks, you know.
Okay, so I was not aware of that. I thought, and I'm pretty sure Kirby, were you aware that there was any contact between anybody else before this?
Yeah, well, on the outside looking in, we had no idea. It just kind of seemed like you had got passed over, and they just insert John Makdessi, and not trying to hate on Makdessi at all, but it was kind of like, wow, like why? That it just didn't make no sense. It felt like Cerrone's like right there by a title shot. Why would you give him Makdessi, even though dude's coming off a win? It didn't make no sense at all. And then when you see your tweet asking for the fight, and everybody's kind of like, yo, yeah, that fight makes a lot of sense. It's like it was really surprising to see them put Makdessi in at that point.
Yeah, no, I was more surprised than anybody. I just thought, because I heard from a couple sources in Cerrone that he was just going to sit down and wait for a title shot, and then next thing I know he's fighting Makdessi, you know.
Okay, now I don't want to speculate, but you guys obviously make decent money as fighters. If you were in the same situation financially, would you have sat out and not took that chance? Because in my opinion, Donald Cerrone fighting Makdessi is a lose-lose situation. If he beats Makdessi, nobody's going to be impressed.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
Yeah, it's like a lose-lose, I think, for him. You know, if he knocks this guy out, he's supposed to, and if it even goes to decision, and God forbid he gets like a robbery, like what happened to me, you know, it's going to look bad on him. You know what I'm saying? He could win the fight, but the judges just see it the wrong way. You know, I've seen that a lot too. Judges, if you take a fight short notice, judges kind of like want to award you for things, you know. So, I mean, hopefully it goes his way, man.
Yeah, well, why don't you go ahead and speculate further? What does a loss to Makdessi do for Donald Cerrone at this point? Do you think that stops his momentum completely?
That's definitely got to stop the momentum. You know, I don't know if Makdessi's ranked or not. I don't think he is, but I never heard of the dude. I never seen him fight. You know, so I could only imagine it would hurt Cerrone. You know.
Yeah, so that's one of those things. Kirby, what was your initial reaction when you heard this?
I was really surprised, man, but actually talking about that, it kind of makes me wonder, like, hypothetically, I assume we all think that Cerrone's going to win this fight. If he does win this fight, do you guys think he can parlay this into a title shot, or will he get the Jacare treatment where it's like, yo, you won, but sorry you didn't get the opponent that you were supposed to win against? Could he, like, on the other end of the spectrum, do you think he gets a title shot if he actually wins?
That's a good question, man.
Because we
gotta ask Joe that.
Yeah, definitely. I wish Joe Silva would talk to us about this sort of thing. But Kirby, I do get what you're saying, because we had Jacare, who was the #1 contender, had to take on Chris Camozzi, and even though Camozzi quit before he actually put him in that armbar, because he had to fight a lesser opponent, now we see Luke Rockhold is going to be the next in line for the title shot. So you bring up a great point, where this may have been a #1 contendership, now against Makdessi, win, lose, or draw, he might just be treading water at this point. So,
exactly. It'll be interesting to see what they do with him. Like you said, God forbid he actually gets taken to a decision, though. It is a lose-lose for Cerrone unless they reward him greatly. So who knows what's going on behind closed doors.
All right, Jorge, I had not heard that you were going to move up to 170. When did you make that decision?
I made it right after this fight, man. I got sick and tired at 55, and I just cutting the weight, man. I'm just huge for the weight class, I think, as well, you know. And after this decision, I was just discussing, and I was like, man, I just want to compete. Just want to have fun. At 170, I can compete as many as every time somebody gets hurt, you're gonna see my name inserted into a little slot trying to get that fight. Because at 70, I walk around about 85, 88, so I could easily get down to 70, no problem, you know.
All right. Is there anybody in mind for your first fight at 170 or your return to 170? I'm sorry, you used to fight welterweight, but
any top 10 guy that wants to welcome me to the division, I'm sure these big boys that think they could weight room check me. I just any top 10 dude that wants to, man. That's what I want.
All right, Kirby, I'll throw it over to you. Think about a welterweight that you would like to see matched up with Jorge.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of. I tell you what, though, I think this is a good idea. Off topic, I have been completely on topic rather, about fighters moving up a weight class and not dehydrating the shit out of themselves to make weight. Tim Means just did it. A lot of cats are moving up a weight class and not cutting all that weight and having really increased better performances with it. So I tell you this, I think it's a great idea, and I think there's a lot of guys at 170 that would be a great fight for Jorge. Matt Brown comes to mind.
There you go.
Being a stand-up striker. I mean, obviously he's got the fight.
I tried to get that fight. They wouldn't give it to me.
He's fighting Tim Means, actually, right?
Yeah, he's fighting Tim Means.
Now, you already beat Tim Means, did you not?
Yeah. I mean, that was my first UFC fight, Tim Means.
There you go. So what's up? Like, the winner of that fight fights Jorge and his welcoming party to 170.
Yeah, because
I wish, man. I wish I was that lucky, man. I ain't getting that lucky.
Well, I tell you what, me and Kirby are going to go to social media and start pumping your name every goddamn place we can because, like I said, I've been following your career forever. It doesn't make any sense. And quite frankly, and Kirby will be the first person to tell you this, he calls me the world's biggest hater. But in your last performance, you looked slick. Your boxing was on point. Do you feel like right now at this age you're starting to put everything together? Because your boxing looked amazing in the ring that last fight.
Oh, definitely, man. Thank you, man. Just give all the praise to God that everything's starting to come together at the right time. But I definitely do feel better now more than ever in a lot of aspects. You know, a lot of times I'd be going in a fighting like a guy that had solid wrestling, and I'd be worried about the shot, and I'd be real defensive. You know, I wouldn't get taken down, but then I wouldn't open up on my feet. Now I've gotten to a point with my wrestling where I don't worry about the takedown so much because I know I could get up on anybody. You know, so I think I'm coming into my own as of right now. You know.
Well, it absolutely looked like it to me. And, you know, not for nothing, we don't have a whole lot of pull or any pull at all whatsoever when it comes to the UFC. But I really do hope that either we get to see that rematch with Tim Means and you can show him, because Dirty Bird's been on a little bit of a tear. The Matt Brown fight, that's going to be good for him. I think Matt Brown takes that. But quite frankly, I think for your coming out party there for 170, I would absolutely love to see you and Matt Brown. I think that would be a fight that the fans would enjoy. Neither one of you guys are going to give an inch. It's going to be an exciting fight for full 15 minutes. Somebody's going to get hurt. It's going to get bloody. I definitely hope to see you up against those guys real soon. Now, we're only going to keep you here for about another 6 or 7 minutes. So why don't we go ahead and talk about some of the events that are coming up? Are you a fight fan, Jorge? Do you watch the fights or do you just compete?
I do and I don't. I'm not, you know, I got kids and stuff. Sometimes I get caught up. But I do love fights, you know. I love all sports that are combat related, you know. I love collegiate wrestling. I'm a big collegiate wrestling fan. Love watching boxing fights, Muay Thai fights. Obviously, I love the UFC, watching UFC fights, you know.
Okay. Well, then let's talk a little bit about 187. How disappointed are you now, or disappointed at all, that it's DC versus AJ rather than John Jones versus AJ?
Obviously, I want to see John Jones versus Anthony Johnson. I think that fight was going to be amazing, but I think this fight's still going to be awesome, you know, to see if Cormier gets taken down or what's Cormier's strategy going to be. We know what Johnson's going to do. He's going to look to take his head off. So I'm really interested to see that fight. You know? I really wanted to see the Khabib Magomedov and Donald Cerrone fight, but that one's not going down no more.
All right, so now me and Kirby are kind of split down the middle in this one. I think that 205-pound Anthony Johnson is a monster. Fred, you disagree with me on that. So, just real quick, just for devil's advocate, Jorge, in that fight, who are you picking, DC or AJ, and why?
It's a 5-round, right? It's the main event.
Yep, it's a main event.
Is it still a title fight?
It is.
Yep.
Man, Anthony Johnson's had a problem in the past with gas, Cormier, I've seen him gas too, but never really slow down too much. I think if it goes the distance, I'm gonna lean towards Cormier. If it's early in the rounds, I think there's gonna be trouble. Johnson just comes out like a bat out of hell. He's world starting people out there, he's just knocking people the fuck out, so you gotta watch that dude early in the goings, you gotta slow him down, tie him up, wrestle him, put him up against the cage, make his blood pump and his arms tired. But I don't know who I'm picking in that fight, man. I haven't given it too much thought, but if I was gonna bet, you guys are putting me in a good one here. Man, I've been on a hell of a streak. I've been picking them good lately, when I bet. I don't know, man. Before the segment's over, I'll get back to you on that one.
All right. Well, I'm definitely going with AJ and Kirby. I think for all the reasons that Jorge just mentioned, you're going to pick against me. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly, man. Exactly like Jorge was saying. I think that Jorge hit it on the head, man. Don't get me wrong. AJ's a beast, man. I think AJ can win this fight. I think AJ can knock out pretty much any man on planet Earth. But I think Jorge said it, man. If the fight ends in the first round or two, I think maybe Anthony Johnson can knock him out. If it goes into the third, fourth, fifth round, I think DC will suck the life out of him. And I think he can finish him late in the fight because DC is a beast.
Yeah, I think so too.
So like if the longer
I can see DC finishing.
Yeah, the longer it goes on, the worse it gets for AJ. But the first round or two, DC will need to be very careful because AJ does pack a lot of stank in the first round or two. So, yeah.
Even though it pains me to agree with you, Kirby, I do have to agree with that assessment. If AJ is going to get it done, he's got to get it done in the first 10 minutes. All right,
yeah.
Let's go ahead and pick your brain one more time, Jorge. Vitor Belfort versus Chris Weidman. Are you excited for this fight? What are you thinking about it?
I'm gonna go with Chris Weidman, man. I think, I never seen Chris Weidman break. I seen Vitor just kind of give up. He gets a little tired and he just kind of gives into the will. I think Chris Weidman can take him in deep waters. It's kind of similar to the DC and Cormier fight that, Cormier and Johnson. Johnson comes out very explosive. Same thing with Vitor. Vitor is very dangerous the first round, second round, but I think as the fight goes more, Weidman will wear him, especially with the Russian. I think he'll be able to take him down, beat him up on the ground.
All right, Kirby, are you with that?
Yep, I mean, he pretty much just nailed it, man. That's exactly true. Yeah. And without, slinging any mud or making any accusations, the whole TRT thing, I don't know if this is...
Yeah, I think that's going to play a huge part.
Right, so, we'll see what happens, man. If Vitor's been doing some dynamite shit lately, we'll see if he can keep up all the spinning back kicks and all the theatrics. If he can do that, then he's going to be hell on wheels for the first couple rounds, just like AJ. But, who knows, man? Post TRT, Vitor shows up and he might just get dogged out by Weidman if he ain't ready.
Yeah, that's a huge question mark.
You've seen a lot of athletes that got popped when they come back. They're not the same dude,
Yep.
No, that's what we have been saying. So, we'll have to keep an eye on that, and I'm sure that if he loses, that's going to be the number one reason why all of the hype train, the Vitor hype train riders, will be saying that he lost is because he's not on TRT anymore. And on the last thing that I want to ask you about, since you are a fan of all combat sports, we have arguably the largest boxing match in history coming up here.
Yes.
Tomorrow. Is that correct? It's tomorrow?
Yep.
Jorge, will you be watching Pacquiao versus Mayweather?
Yeah, I'll be watching.
All right, and who are you rooting for?
Man, two of my favorite fighters of this generation. Two fighters that I've been watching since I was a young man. It's a tough fight, man. But I'm gonna go with, just because the dude's so humble. And you think about, he started his first fight at 106. He's all the way at 147 fighting one of the best fighters that ever walked the planet. I'm gonna just go with the underdog Pacquiao, man. And I think Mayweather does have the style to beat him with the right hands, the counter fight and the good footwork, But I think Pacquiao's gonna pull it off, man. I think the pressure might get to him, and Mayweather doesn't do great against southpaws. I don't know if you guys saw him versus Chop Chop Corley back in the day, the Marcus Chop Chop Corley.
Yep, I saw that.
He had trouble a couple rounds, until he stopped him.
Yep,
so
I did see that.
I think Pacquiao's better than any southpaw he's faced, better than Zab Judah, any of those guys,
Yeah, it's hard to find a better southpaw than Pacquiao. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. We want to say thank you very much for being so patient with us and answering all of our fun questions there. And before I let you go, why don't you tell the fans how to follow you on social media so they can check out your first fight at 170, so they can stay abreast when you get scheduled for that first fight at 170.
On Instagram, you can follow me at Gamebred Fighter, and Facebook, just my name, Jorge Gamebred Masvidal. And that's it, man. That's all my social media right there.
All right. Well, Kirby, how can they find you on social media?
You can find me at Kirby_MMA on Twitter and at Gym City Fighting on Twitter.
All right. You can find the show at Stand in Bang Radio on Twitter. But why don't you just go ahead and go over to standandbangmma.com. You can find all of our shows, all of our previous episodes, and you can also find our YouTube channel. Jorge, thank you very much for stopping by. And fans, stay tuned next week. We're going to be repping 1FC.